this series called In My Feelings, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this statement. And you can write this down as the title, I'm getting my hope back. I'm getting my hope back. Sometimes there's this feeling called disappointment that can steal your hope. And it can steal your joy, and it can steal your peace. And it's not like only a couple people deal with disappointment. See, all of us deal with disappointment, but I want to make sure that we don't let disappointment run our lives. Because not that we understand that, you know, we're all dealing with it, but how we deal with it is so important, and understanding that we don't want to let that thing, that disappointment, that thing that felt so soul-crushing run our lives. You get... And disappointment can come quick because you can just living your normal life, and then all of a sudden you get a call from the doctor that you did not think about and did not expect. All of a sudden you're in a financial situation that you didn't expect. All of a sudden you're dealing with a relationship fallout that you thought was everything was going great, but now it's not going great, and you're disappointed. You had a thought of how this friendship was going to go, and then all of a sudden this friendship broke and you're disappointed. Or maybe you're disappointed in yourself and you thought you were going to be stronger than you were, but you weren't. And so you messed up again, and you live with that guilt and disappointment in your life. Or maybe you're a parent and you're disappointed with your kids, or maybe you're disappointed that you're disappointed with your kids. You know, you're kind of disappointed in the way that you're parenting. There's disappointment that we deal with all the time because we always have expectations in our life. And when expectations don't go the way that we think they're going to go, we deal with this thing called disappointment. And sometimes disappointment can start running our life. And we live our life filled with disappointment. And I want to read the story. This is in Luke chapter 7. In Luke chapter 7, verse, I think we're going to start in verse 11. It says, soon afterward, Jesus went with his disciples to the village of Nain, and a large crowd followed him. Remember that, a large crowd followed Jesus. And a funeral procession was coming out as he approached the village gate, and the young man who had died was the widow's only son. And a large crowd from the village was with her. When the Lord saw her, his heart overflowed with compassion. Don't cry, he said. I love that, just that short little phrase, the Lord saw her. And I want to remind us all that he sees you and he sees me. When you're disappointed, he sees you. When you feel like just darkness is filling your life, he sees you. He sees you. He sees you sitting in this seat right now. He sees what you're dealing with that you're not letting anybody else into, but he sees what you are dealing with. He sees the deep things that are in your heart that no one else knows about, that you walked into church and tried to put on a smiling face and say, oh, nice skirt, and oh, you look pretty, and oh, that's nice, and bless the Lord, and all that, and you sit down. But in the very deep part of your heart, you're feeling like you're getting twisted inside and out. Jesus sees you. He sees you. Don't cry, he said. Then he walked over to the coffin, touched it, and the bearer stopped. Young man, he said, I tell you, get up. Then the dead boy sat up and began to talk. That is how you end a funeral. Just get up, start talking. I mean, this is Jesus. This is why people were following him. This is why people wanted to be around him. Death could not hold him. Death was not stronger than Jesus. And Jesus, at the end, Jesus gave him back to his mother. And I want us to see, first and foremost, this piece from this scripture. For the next couple of minutes we're going to talk. I want us to see that we're all in a crowd. Notice that the Bible said two crowds. There were two. One was following Jesus and one was following the widow. One was invigorated, one was devastated. One crowd was following death, the other crowd was following life. One crowd was following a miracle about to happen, another crowd was wondering, will a miracle ever happen? One crowd was following a man who was going to change the face of this world, and one crowd was following a woman who wondered, when am I going to ever leave this world? One crowd was following darkness, the other was following light. And my question to all of us is, what crowd are we in? What crowd are we following? What people are around your life? What people do you have that are actually picking you up, or they're putting you down? What people you have in your life that actually speak to your potential or to speak to your past? What people in your life actually look at your mistakes or that look at what you could be? What people in your life actually have hope for things that you're running into, instead of let's just commiserate together because this is a terrible world we live in and everything's wrong, but at least we're together. There's got to be something more than us just being together in a bunker mentality when we follow after Jesus. There's got to be something more, that when we follow after Jesus, things actually change. We're in a crowd that actually has the potential to see something come back to life, instead of in a crowd that's just like, well, we live in this world and it's terrible and it's horrible and bad things happen all the time, and you know what, we just got to work through it. No, you don't. There is a standard that can be raised that not by you or me or anybody else can ever do it, but Jesus can do it. So if you're in that crowd, then you start understanding there is an answer for unanswerable questions. There is somebody who can move a mountain when a mountain seems like it can't be moved. And when you're in that crowd, other people help you. I need that crowd. I need that crowd. That's why church is important. That's why you got your butt out of bed and got into this place, because you need that crowd. You need those people in your life. Maybe you can't sing this morning. Maybe in worship you couldn't even get a breath to say something because you're feeling so just down and out. But you needed other people around you to sing when you couldn't sing. You needed other people to sing when you didn't have breath to sing. You needed other people to pray when you couldn't pray, because we gotta be in the room and we got to be in a crowd that is following after life instead of death. We got to be in a place that actually lifts our faith, because this world is hard and there is stuff that's going on that is difficult. But man, I need people in my life that don't just say, well, this is really hard and I'm so sorry. I need people that say, you know what? I believe in faith. You believe in faith. Get up. Let's go. Let's move forward. Instead of just living in this life that thinks, well, the worst is probably always going to happen. I need those people. I saw those people when I was in Uganda. We went to this place, like by any other standards would be unlivable. And I walk in to this woman's house. She invited us in. It's not a house, it's a room. She's so proud of it. She has one kid that's sitting on her lap. Actually got a picture of Rita. She's so sweet. Those are ears of corn in front of her that she's getting ready to roast, because she's going to have her kids go sell them at the market that night. And I was looking at Rita, and I'm like, Rita, how many kids do you have? She looked at me. Now, Uganda's, a lot of times English is their second language, and so she understood what I was saying. She looked at me, I have 11. What? I mean, 11. And then I asked this, are you going to have any more? And she started laughing and smiling, and she goes, just so you know, that's husband and wife speak for yeah. We're having more. I was just like, Rita, and then I was like, you know what? This is just the Ewan family, but they're just in Uganda. And if you're new, the Ewans, they got a bunch of kids and they serve all over the church, and they're the best people in the world to know, so get to know them. But I'm just looking at this picture. I'm like, how you have 11 kids and smile? I don't understand that. Like that's, I mean, because I mean, just by like any type of kids that you got, at least 3 you want to kill. at this moment. Like, that's just playing the odds. If you've got great parenting skills, at least 2 or 3, you're like, I just take them out. God, take them out. And she's sitting there smiling. I'm like, Rita, why are you so joyful? Because she was sitting there just, shucking that corn and just having a blast and talking to us and so all this. And I was like, wait, Rita, why you? And she says, because I have hope. Because Watoto came into her life. And by Watoto, I say Jesus. Because the church isn't anything without Jesus. And so the Watoto came into her life, gave her not only a way to make some money, but then they staked her. They bought her some chickens. So now she's got chickens and corn. And she's like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to make it rain all over Uganda. She's like feeling like, wow, I have so much. And by any standards, we would look at her and say she has nothing. But to her, she hooked herself up with a crowd that believed in her, that saw her potential when no one else did, and saw her 11 kids and saw her still married to the same man. And in Uganda, that's a huge deal. And saw all of this and said, you've got potential. You're a leader. You've got some stuff inside of you, Rita. And all of a sudden, now she's starting to live up to that potential. I need to be in a crowd like that. I need a crowd that sees me for not who I am right now, but who I can be. I need somebody to help me when I'm feeling like the world is caving in on my life. I need somebody to speak life into me. And I'm not saying the hard, like, oh, get up, you're fine, put some dirt on it, you're okay. That's just being rude. Don't do that. You need some people that understand, that have compassion for you, but know that you're not going to always stay here. This is not always going to be the place that you live. This is not always going to be the end of your life. This is not the end of the sentence. God has more for you, and I'm right here. So let's walk together as we move forward to what God has for us. I need to be in that crowd. I need to be in that crowd. Second thing is this, is that a pattern of discouragement is dangerous. A pattern of discouragement is dangerous. Notice that when we were reading that scripture, it said that this was a widow. And she was now bearing her only son. I want you to understand that this wasn't the first funeral that she was going to. That this girl buried her husband. And in a male-dominated culture, now all of a sudden you've now lost not only your husband, now you've lost your only son. And I would think that at some point she's dealing with some thoughts of, God, why do you hate me? Why aren't you helping me? Why is the whole world against me? Why is it always happening to me? Why is this thing going down like this? I don't know if you've ever felt like this, where you've been disappointed, and then when you're just starting to get up, some other disappointment come and blindsides you, and you feel like you can't breathe. I don't know if you've ever felt like that before, but it is soul crushing. Because a pattern of disappointment. It's dangerous. I just remember we were on, I went, this was a couple weeks ago, I was preaching at my pastor, Pastor Robin Loricoke. They pastor a church in Austin, Texas. They're our pastors. And so I went down and preached for him one Sunday and then did his daughter's funeral that same week. Wedding. Wedding? Some people call it a funeral. I'm just kidding. It's a wedding. It was beautiful. It was awesome. And I'm going to make fun of myself later for that. We're sitting there throughout the week. So we have some of our family come down. They were on vacation. And so and we're seeing Jess's family. And so we let's go. Let's have one day. We're going to go to this water park called Schlitterbahn. It's awesome. It's amazing. In Texas, it's the biggest water park ever. And just everybody just walking around, letting it all hang out, going around water park. It's nasty, but it's fun. And so we're all there as a family. And we're doing this thing called it's not a wave pool. There is a wave pool part of it, but there's also like this wave river that just kind of sucks you around a big circle and throws you around. And it's awesome. It's amazing. You can stay on it forever. And I'm sitting there with our family. We're going around, my niece and nephew and Jess and Pat and Charlotte. We're just having a blast. And then my brother-in-law says, Ben, we should go around with no tubes. See how that is. I was like, let's do it. And so we start going, and the huge wave comes, and I'm waiting for it, and it just knocks me off my feet, sucks me down under, and like throws me up, and we're going around in a circle, and I'm like, oh, and so I try to stand up to get some breath. And then as I'm starting to stand up, I get smashed by this elephant of a something that hits me in the back, knocks me down again. And I'm like, I can't breathe because I was just starting to take a breath, and then I got smoked and like down in the water. I can't breathe. I'm trying to like wrestle, and all of a sudden I see my brother-in-law's legs on either side of me, riding me like a porpoise down this river, and I'm like pushing around and stuff like that, and I can hear him laughing. On the top of the wall, I finally pushed him. I was like, what are you doing? I couldn't stop. Oh yeah, you couldn't stop from riding me like a donkey. And I couldn't breathe. It was about to get jungle rules. I was gonna start hitting things and biting things. So I need to get some air. I don't know if you've ever felt that moment before when you get hit once and you're just about to get up and you get hit again. And then it's just like, I don't have anything left. Can't breathe. Life has a way of doing that sometimes, where it hits you once and then all of a sudden something else comes and tries to take you out. I wonder if this widow was feeling this. I lost my husband. Now I'm losing my only son. I don't have anything else to live for. And I'm telling you, a pattern of disappointment is dangerous. You've got to understand, when disappointment is starting to come your way, that you are more vulnerable and you are more fragile. You're more sensitive. And all of a sudden, when stuff starts happening like that, what tends to happen is a pattern of disappointment turns hurt into bitterness, turns hope into cynicism. It heightens your hurt because you keep feeling these things. And so you got to watch that a couple of these responses don't become your response when you start getting double disappointment. First of all, don't expect it, because that's usually what happens when you start getting disappointed over and over again. You start expecting people to fail you. You start expecting people to hurt you when you trust them. You start expecting things to happen. You become somebody who always believes that the worst is going to happen. You're the one, because you know why you do this? Is because if I expect it, it's not going to hurt as bad. And I want to let you know, the truth is, it hurts all the same. Whether you expect it or not, it still hurts. But see, people will start, after disappointment, you start expecting. Oh, and then what also happens is that if you get a sniff of something that's going wrong, you run. You're out because, oh, I knew it. I expected it to be this way. Also what happens, and I would caution all of us to do this, not just don't expect it, but also don't shut off. Because some people, when they go through disappointment after disappointment, they start shutting off to people. They start shutting off to situations. They stop believing in themselves. They stop believing in other people. They build up walls so high that no one else will come in, because if I let you in, that's only a time for me to get hurt. And so some of you may run into some of these situations where you feel like you're getting closer to somebody, and then all of a sudden a wall comes up. And they're like, no, you can't go any further. Why? Because if I hurt you first, you'll never hurt me. If I push you away, then you can never push me away. because of a pattern of disappointment is dangerous. And so it's so important to let Jesus work in this moment. When you start getting disappointed, let Jesus in this moment. Don't build a wall. Don't become this hard shell of who you could have been. Don't think, well, I'm just gonna work through it myself, and I don't need anybody else, and I can do it myself, and I've always done it myself, and so I'll always have to do it myself. No, that's just your hurt talking. Let Jesus start healing you from the inside out. This disappointment, I know it's hard, and I know it hurts, and it hurts us all, but the worst thing that you can do is let disappointment win, and the way that it wins is it tells you to shut up, sit down, don't ever move again. I beat you, I'm going to go to the next person. Don't let disappointment be your God. I saw this woman, when we were in Gulu, which is just, I can't tell you all the stories, so I'm just going to tell you these two, and then we'll tell more later. Because seriously, it's life-changing. That church changing a nation, that's not hyperbole. That literally is happening. Like, I've never seen a church that can change a nation till I saw Watoto. It's literally changing the nation. So we're in this place in Gulu, which is like north of Kampala, which is the capital of Uganda. And they're like, okay, the women, they have something special for you guys to welcome you into the village where they're working. This is called the Watoto Village and all of this stuff. Actually, I have a video of it when we were coming in. Look at this. This is I'm actually in the middle dancing with everybody else and trying to do as best I can. And we're having a blast. I mean, everybody's laughing, everybody's having fun, and then, okay, there's one of the, I know, hey, those hips don't lie. So we're all having so much fun. They're just like, they go for like 5 more minutes after this. They're just like having a blast. And I'm loving it too. I'm in the middle just shaking and going and just all the yelling and all this kind of stuff. We had a blast. And I'm like, this joy is infectious. This is so amazing. And then one of the ladies starts talking. And she tells this story. And this was one of the girls that is laughing and smiling. All of a sudden she says, before I was here at Watoto, this Ngulu was ground zero for the LRA, the Lord's Resistant Army, which isn't good. That wasn't a good name. This was Joseph Kony and his the invisible children, his army of children that destroyed Gulu, that was running around stealing kids and making them and brainwashing them to be a part of an army. So it wasn't anything to see a truck load of 10-year-olds with AK-47s shooting anybody they wanted to because they could. This was the army that was destroying Gulu at the time, and this woman said when the army came to our town, they asked where the men were. The men ran and hid because they knew that they wanted them for this fight. And they said, where are the men? And this one woman said, I don't know. And the army commander said, these lips, these are lying lips. Cut them off. And the army commander's second in command cut her lips off right in front of everyone. 2 weeks after that, she said, they came back again. And they said, where are the men? And she answered again, I don't know. And he said in front of everyone, see these ears? They don't hear. They don't work. Cut them off. And they cut off her ears. And she said, I came back to Gulu after the war had ended. No one wanted anything to do with me. I had all this shame, all this regret. No one would even look at me. And every time I ate, I couldn't keep food in my mouth because I had no lips to cover it. So there was women all together that would eat together because no one else would eat with them because they were so disgusting to look at. And she said, I was in this place, and it wasn't until this church called Watoto came and said, can we help? And they flew in reconstructive surgeons from India that were able to reconstruct and give her lips back and give her ears back. And that's amazing in itself. And she said, I started to feel a little hope again. And then I was in church service. She's telling us this. I was in church service in Gulu, and I looked up and I saw the army commander in the second row of my church. And at that moment, I forgave him. And the rest of the story goes, he gave his heart to God at that moment. Actually, Pastor Marilyn got to pray with him to receive Jesus, a humongous miracle in and of itself. But I'm looking at this woman who has gone through so much, and you would think that after all of that pattern of disappointment, she would have just melted into herself and said, I don't have lips, I don't have ears, I don't have anything. But she came out of it because somebody came around her and said, we want to not only physically help you, but we want to give you spiritual help as well. And she forgave, and she didn't get bitter, and she didn't let that stuff rule her life. I'm telling you, I know you've gone through some disappointment before, but there is an answer on the other side of that. You don't have to live in bitterness and unforgiveness and hurt. You don't have to live with a wall over your soul. You don't have to live feeling like you're dead inside but alive and breathing on the outside. You don't have to live like that. There's answers. I'm getting my hope back. Even telling this story, I'm getting my hope back. I ask you all to stand. I'm just going to talk for the next couple of minutes just on these three little things that I saw at the end of this story. The first thing is this, because the truth is disappointment can come quickly, but hope evolves slowly. Disappointment just feels like it strikes so quickly, but hope evolves slowly, meaning that there's stages to getting your hope back. One, I saw this when Jesus came to this woman. You know what he did first? He said, he came to her and he said, don't cry, I see you. Some of you need to understand, your first step is just understanding that Jesus sees you. He cares about you. He has compassion for you. He knows what you've gone through. When no one else knows what you've gone through, he knows what you've gone through. And so understand that he sees you, that you're not blind. He's not blind to your situation, and he's not blind to your emotion. It's okay that you're feeling down at this moment. You don't have to put a facade for him, because he already sees what's going on. And he looks at you and he says, don't cry. Not because you shouldn't respond with emotion, but he's saying, I'm about to do something that's going to change your mourning to dancing. It's going to change your tears into tears of joy. And I'm going to do, so don't cry. He sees you. He hears you. Some of you think that God doesn't hear your prayers. He hears you. Some of you don't think that God understands where you're coming from. He sees where you've come from. When he looks at me, he sees Ben and all of his mess. He sees Ben and all of his mess ups and things that no one else knows. He sees all of that. I come to a God who sees me in my entirety, and he still says, I love you. I paid a price for you. I want to have a relationship with you. I'm not pushing you aside. I'm bringing you closer. Jesus sees you. Second, he went to this coffin, and the Bible says that he touched it and the pallbearers stopped. And I want to let you know that this is important. Back in the day, in Jesus' day, if rabbis touched something that was dead, they were unclean, and they weren't able to do anything in the temple, and they had to have went through so many different sets of rituals to get back to cleanliness, so no one would ever touch anything that maybe was even close to dead. But Jesus touched the coffin, and I'm looking at this and saying he's not scared of your hurt. He's not scared of the stuff that it seems like is so dark. He's not scared of the things that you feel like, oh, God would never want me around this, and God would never want me in church, and God would never want a relationship with me, and I must have done something wrong because that's why this bad thing has happened to me in the first place. No, God sees all of that, and God actually doesn't just see it. He goes and touches it, and he says, stop. The whole cycle of disappointment is going to stop now. This whole thing of death taking over is going to stop now. They stopped when he touched it. And there are moments in our life when we need to get in church and get our Bible out and start praying and let Jesus touch our soul, so the stuff stops. The disappointment stops. The cycle stops. The death stops. We have to I got to constantly be in this room where I let the Spirit of God touch my life, because I can't do it on my own. There are moments when I feel like darkness is going to crush me, and in that moment I need Jesus to touch my soul and stop that thing from taking over my heart. And lastly, Jesus said, the Bible said Jesus gave back her son to her. And when I read that, I felt like God spoke to my heart and said, Ben, you'll never get back what you don't give. So there are some things that you're holding on to right now. As dark and hurtful as they are, you're still holding on to them. But it's not until you give them to Jesus will you ever get life back. I entitled this message, I'm Getting My Hope Back. See, this woman got a son back. I'm reading this story and I'm getting my hope back, because I'm giving Jesus my disappointment. I'm giving Jesus the dark parts of my soul. I'm giving Jesus the things that I cannot even deal with. I'm giving. So some of you, I'm telling you right now, at this moment, you need to give Jesus your broken dreams. That broken relationship that seemed like it is going to linger over your heart for the rest of your life, give that to Jesus. That stuff that you've done in your past that you feel so guilty about, and you feel like you could never match up to what other people are telling you could be, give that to Jesus and say, I'm not going to let guilt and all that stuff run my life anymore. The things the words that were spoken over you when you were a kid, and they said that you're never going to amount to anything and you were a mistake and you can't do the things that everybody else can do, of that to Jesus, and he gives you hope back, and he gives you life back, and he gives you a new dream and a new life and a new walk and a new energy. There is something in this room that when you give Jesus all of those different things, he doesn't give you back the same. He gives you back life. He gives you back hope. I'm getting my hope back. Church, we're getting our hope back. We're getting our hope back. And it's not emotionalism, and it's not something I'm talking about like, oh, you just got to get up and yell and get excited and all. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about faith that is as real as this stage that I'm sitting on right now. Hope that I believe, that I can't see the future, but I believe that God has it. So Jesus, I just give you all of that.